Welcome back to another episode of the Maturity Project. I am your host, Chad Everett Broshears. Today's conversation is, and again, these conversations are just to expand into thought. Start looking at things at different angles. It's not advice on what you should do or need to do in order to progress your life towards a goal that you have. It's to give you the food for thought that can expand into other things, and that can be done through storytelling, sharing those experiences that can be insightful enough to really kind of trigger possibilities in your mind. I find one of the greatest gifts, just like they say, like it said in the Bible, it said, give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for life. Well, that's the same in the thinking process. You know, give people insights enough to make them think, inspire them into thinking, they start to learn how to think in certain ways for themselves moving forward. And it can change not only their perspective, but their life. So that's my goal with this. So as I'm going through this, I'm hearing from people that they're actually using these videos to speak with their children, to expand their views. Is however unpolished and lacking the professional production that these videos do have still, they are helpful and they're working to help people get different insights. That's my whole goal with this. Now, I do have a framing tool and structure to it as far as the actual information, which creates an intellectual vehicle that you guys can take advantage of, which is reframing maturity and putting it into categories that you can mature through that give you more insight into other opportunities and how these things interconnect, and how when you holistically connect these things, your experience and fulfillment in life go up, and your day-to-day stresses, without that information, your day-to-day stresses will be higher. No, it is a wonderful thing for me to hear from people that are saying things like, I'm now viewing the world through the perspective of maturity, and it's reduced how frustrated I get when I'm interacting with people. I actually feel more empowered and capable of empowering people from the patience that comes from understanding. That's a huge gift to me. That is a wonderful piece of feedback, because I care why I do this and face the potential ridicule that I do to myself, as well as that from the people that may come across these videos, and not being pleasing to their perspectives or to the level that they expect production to be at, or content to be specifically structured in such a way that they prefer. I'm still facing all of that potential ridicule so that I can get this kind of information to people that really are prepared and primed to make change. So this is a gift of love that I try to bring to this. I am not one that, runs around with the whole, hippie mindset of it's all love. And, there's a place for every emotion. We have them for a reason. The interesting thing is how we like to take being a human being and dismiss or chastise ourselves because we're human beings. If hate is an emotional experience for you, well, the mature thing to do would be to explore the cause of that and to see if that might be a conflation of several emotions that have accumulated to the point that you believe that be it, what hate is. And then there is what hate actually is intended to be, right? Why should we have that experience in our emotional spectrum? Because we do. Now, it has been hijacked by things like, using terms like hate speech, stuff like that. A lot of that is exaggerated and nonsensical, but it is how you it's how you go after free speech, is you use that to make legal restrictions on people's ability to talk. Now, I'm not condoning, the language that can excite people to violence. I'm not doing that. That's not even the purpose of this. Again, this is to make people think a little bit more about certain subjects. Because you hear it on the news, and because you hear it from people that claim to be authorities or associated or assigned authority and speaking in specific places, does not mean that you should surrender your thinking, that you should just accept what they say to be the absolute truth of something. I highly encourage people to think for yourself no matter who it is. I encourage you to think for yourself whenever it comes to me as well. I don't care who it is. Think, just to think, right? I've recently heard something that was absolutely fantastic to hear this, because I have come from teach people how to think critically. Just teach critical thinking. Well, then they say, don't teach people what to think, teach them how to think. Well, the person that I was listening to, which owns, she's the head dean of a private school in the UK, or of a school in the UK, and she's got a very strict way of running it and managing the children and how they have their curriculum assigned and then the manners they expect and the behavior they expect. And it's been criticized for being incredibly strict. But yet the parents that send their kids through that seem to be incredibly supportive. And the children seem to come out of that education with a higher level of functionality in society. They're not as disruptive, they're more supportive, they have their test scores are much higher, all these things, which is expected when you have more structure. She stated that it's better to teach children what to think. And like there's something still off on this equation. Is her defense of it, and I don't disagree with her. Teach them what to think so they have a basis of a foundation of how to critically think, but she didn't add that much on the critical thinking aspect. And for me, it's a combination of the two, but you do need to have a foundation to think from. Though children are intended to be taught directly how to experience the world, especially when they're with their parents, or their early authorities. And then as they grow up, they know what the experiences of life have been through the guidance of their family. Then they have to go into their own and then experience life and come to their own conclusions, which is what takes place from the late teens into their 20s on average. And then, universities and places like that give them other experiences and lets them continue to expand beyond the parents' ability to educate them. But their parents at that point are there to guide them at the distance that is appropriate for a parent. You don't want to be 30 and treated like you're 12. And parents we get that. We do have parents that don't want to let go and let their child truly become an adult, which is a transition thing that we're also not taught, but it does seem like we have a genetic pathway to kind of understand that. It just seems to be built into our DNA to understand how to start letting go of the control that we have over our children to guide them in the way that we do when they're with us and before they're the age of 18, and let them transition into the adult practicing of life, which requires mistakes to be made, hardships to be brought on. It's just that we get overbearing parents that don't want to allow their children to go through the hardships, so they keep intervening, causing problems with their ability to adjust to society as society continues to produce what it does. There's a lot of fascinating research around that. But anyway, my point for the conversation today is the joy and the gift that you guys have given me. I am so incredibly grateful for the feedback that I've been getting. I love that this is actually starting to make traction into people's lives in the way they're sharing it with their children, friends, family. Even past my inadequacies to produce this higher polished professional product is seeing past that and listen to the conversation. Get past the formulation of a conversation that is typically suited and developed on my side with another person present, and to see how I can stay on track in a conversation like this without somebody else. Because I'm one that I don't like to talk all the time when I'm talking to people, because I like to hear what they're talking about and to be able to join them in the continuation of the conversation. So I'm over in their world as much as I'm in mine, so that we can have these worlds exist together. I'm not in mine waiting for the right things to say to the other person based off what I heard them say, and I disengage because I'm in my head trying not to forget or formulate my ideas. I prefer to be present with that person. By that is a conditioning in the way that I communicate that I have not translated to the highest degree of efficiency into the recordings of these videos yet. So if you engage with me one-on-one or in a group-based conversation, you will see that I communicate at a much more effective and proficient level, because I genuinely want to connect. I am But even if we disagree on things, I do want to connect. I want to understand what it is that you understand and how you see the world, because I view it that we all hold a fragment of the absolute reality. But those fragments are the mass of what we can actually comprehend as a person. It's just reality is too damn big, right? Like, if you think about every single thing, like if you sit and you study physics, what are you not giving yourself the ability to develop and study? You can learn everything you could possibly learn in a lifetime about physics. Does that translate into relationships? Does that translate into, the economy? Does it translate into purpose in your life? Does it give you any business value whatsoever? You see, like all those areas, they're deserving of attention enough to make you functional, so that when the subject of physics is no longer at the primary focus of the conversation and it goes into something else, the person that is studied and they focus solely on physics, I'm only picking on that, it's not any one particular, it's just isolate and become a specialist in one area, and what do you deny yourself in developing? When you're in those conversations and that's what you're conditioned at, and like I said, again, back to the physics thing, when you're focused solely on that and that's all you've really developed yourself in, you're going to continue to try to push the conversation back into physics. Is a natural inclination, because that is what you're most practiced in. Now, if you have curiosity, which is not impossible, and it's likely, typically that interest to go into one particular field of study to that depth typically does have a pretty good degree of curiosity, but your strength lies there. So you can be curious in a conversation about what other people are experiencing, but it's not easy to stay in their conversation without trying to force physics back into the conversation. No, it's very challenging. That goes for anything. Fitness enthusiasts, everything is fitness related, and you get those people that have that high degree of interest in fitness. You have people at every single part of the industry that is solely incredibly focused to become a specialist, that they lose something else. So becoming well-rounded creates more fulfillment, but you're always going to be giving something up. So when you're dealing with somebody else in the sense of a conversation where they're coming from a different perspective, and it may actually be something that might be viewed as potentially argumentative, is just give the grace that they have a piece of reality that you don't have, that you can now see something different if you go over there, and they can explain to you what got them to their conclusions. And you might disagree with the conclusion, but if you understood the journey, you probably wouldn't have disagree. Either you might not disagree at all, or you wouldn't disagree with as much emotion associated with a disagreement. You may actually change that emotion from being, potentially argumentative with them to being compassionate and understand something happened to them along the way that made them believe things like that. So my goal with this is to get people to transfer into those other spaces, get to the point that you really do get so much more fulfillment out of life, and you don't have as much. By the way, fulfillment is very challenging to come by when you're righteous. Now, it may seem like it, but you get something out of it, otherwise people wouldn't do it. But the shortcomings become obvious, as time moves on, because it does have a short-sightedness about it by being overly righteous. You disconnect, and it violates the tenets of community, which, by the way, every one of these areas of maturity have the specific tenets to not violate. When you do violate them, it causes disruptions and upsets. Because, like I was saying about community, if you violate a tenet of community, like being righteous, you're violating connection. Now, if you know how to communicate, you can get rid of the righteousness, that hard beaten direction, which is I'm right no matter what, and I will prove it to you, is I can show you how this is right for me, and to see if that becomes a conclusion for you. If that's a method you're going to take, you're going to need to connect with them. Because if they think you're just an asshole that's trying to convince them of, something, like people can have that idea, by the way, sidebar on this. There's a guy named Steven Crowder that used to do this thing called Change My Mind. And he'd go to college campuses, predominantly college campuses, and he would have Change My Mind, but he'd have a topic on there, like, gun rights, or, whatever, Change My Mind, or, only two genders, Change My Mind, that kind of stuff. I'm just using that to outline the kind of thing that he put out there. The problem is that, one, it definitely gets attention. The problem is that it comes from, now he is not overly aggressive in the way that he has these conversations. If you actually listen to his conversations, he's not overly aggressive, and he does try to persuade the person to see it from his perspective and continue to nudge them that way based off of logic in their communication. He's actually very good at that, but I'm not saying that it's 100% right. On the onset, it seems abrasive and emotionally exciting, but not necessarily a desirable emotional excitation. But it's enough to get attention that can, produce social media content and move things forward in, the world of his broadcast and the things that he produces from his company. Now, if you start off from, this is my position, change my mind, it already has a vehicle of thinking associated with it, which is it's a structure, right? It's a, well, now I am, if I'm willing to take this on, and now I have the task of changing this person's mind. And then wherever you come from with that, which is if it's a really emotional topic or a common topic that seems to evoke a lot of emotion, that might start off from, this guy's an asshole, he's never going to change his mind. Oh, anyway, the goal is connecting with people. If you violate a tenet of a specific area of maturity, it will come at a cost. What's that cost? If you want to make real change, you're going to want to prevent violating the tenets of community. You don't want to violate the tenets of knowledge. By the way, to violate the tenets of knowledge is to not do your research and not educate yourself, but to put all of your thoughts into a category of feral thinking. Really, it's nothing that's been overly developed with other people involved. So it's just the stuff you build in your head that you believe is right, and that can be a violation. That is a violation of the tenet of knowledge-based maturity. Because you want to have the ability to connect and communicate. They're all important and interlinked. Again, it's a holistic system, the way that this works. All right. I don't want to spend too much time on today's video. Just wanted to put something out there about this because I am incredibly grateful that the listeners have been sharing this with people in their life, especially their family. These conversations, make them meaningful. Add to them as you wish. If you want to put something in the comment section, please do. I encourage that. It does help me with recognizing the channel and being able to get it a little more attention. It helps with subscribers and things like that. So the algorithm. But also, it helps with our community. It gets people to understand that you're participating. It's a part of it. It's a second area of maturity, community. So let's join together in this. You don't have to think exactly like me, and I encourage you not to. I want to have more fragments of reality brought to our awareness. This is a community type education. It is to make a bigger difference working together, not doing this in such a way to tell everybody else that they're wrong for the way they live their life. Which I should do a video on that, actually. How do you gauge what's right or wrong? Yeah. And it's also a big reason why I don't get advice. Another one. Anyway, all right. Well, that's it for today. I'm your host, Chad Everett Brochures. This is a Maturity Project. Now, again, share this video with people in your life you want to make a difference with. Look, if you're going to change your life, you got to start making the declarations. I know there's people out there that say, don't tell anybody what you're up to, just show them. That's fine for some. Some people, if you want to know your resources that are available to you based off the people in your community, learn how to have a conversation of enrollment with those people. This is what I'm up to. This is how you can contribute to what I'm up to. The same thing, like what I'm up to, it's becoming more obvious for the viewers that there is contribution to be made in this. Your contribution can be a comment in the comment section. It could just simply be, subscribing to the channel. It could be sending me an email, to start a conversation for a particular portion of the education, whether that's the relationship course that I just designed, or it's the Know Your Worth course that I'm designing. If it's a nutrition program that I have for the physical body, like all of those things. Which, by the way, I do have incredible, and it's been effective for 100% of the people that I've worked with. As far as the nutrition program, I don't talk about it much because that's part of my old life, but it is available in this as well. So, it's reach out. You can start that conversation with me at yourmaturityproject@gmail.com. That is YOUR maturityproject@gmail.com. And we can start a conversation. If you want just the 8 areas of maturity in document form, I have that as well. I'll be happy to send it over to you. I love to create things that are meaningful with other people. And I encourage you to do the same. So again, share the video with those people. Encourage them to watch. Make this part of your routine. I'm producing content on a regular basis just because I want to, create more opportunities for change for people. Make this part of your routine. That's part of the change is routine, right? So you want something different, you need to do something different. All right. Path to hell is paved with good intentions. We're not going to do that. We're going to redirect our good intentions with maturity, and we're going to lay the bricks to the utopia we all want to create. And a better understanding of it, utopia is not free of struggle. It's how do you understand struggle and what is it? It's like working out. You push a little bit. Get uncomfortable, push. Uncomfortable, push. You get better. You get closer to your goals. So, all right. We grow through what we go through. You take the mistakes from yesterday, make it the fertile soil for tomorrow's opportunities. Let's do this together. Let's get up to something. Let's go.